Hello, and welcome to Whispered Tales, where the echoes of ancient myths find new life and the timeless stories of gods, mortals, and their tangled fates come alive in the quiet of the night. Tonight, we delve into the tale of Narcissus, the beautiful youth whose story has captivated hearts for millennia. His is a legend of beauty unmatched, of love unreturned, and of a reflection that became both his obsession and his undoing. Imagine a forest bathed in golden light, where a still, enchanted pool lies hidden among the trees. In its depths, a reflection stares back, silent and mesmerizing. This is where we find Narcissus, a young man whose beauty rivaled that of the gods, but whose heart was as distant as the stars. His story is not only a tale of vanity and pride, but also a profound exploration of love, its power to heal, its capacity to wound, and the delicate balance it demands between self and others. As we follow Narcissus on his journey, we'll encounter Echo, the nymph whose love was silenced by a cruel curse, the gods who wove his fate with both pity and justice, and the enchanted pool that revealed the truth of his heart. Through his story, we'll explore themes of beauty, longing, and the perilous allure of self-obsession, a tale as relevant today as it was in the days of ancient Greece. So, find a comfortable place, close your eyes, and let the whispers of this myth guide you to the quiet glades of a distant forest, where Narcissus's reflection waits to tell its story. If you enjoy these timeless legends, don't forget to follow Whispered Tales for more journeys into the world of myth and mystery. Now, let us begin the story of Narcissus, a youth whose beauty was both his greatest gift and his deepest curse. Long ago, in the golden age of myths and legends, there was a boy of unparalleled beauty, destined to be both admired and cursed. Narcissus, born of the river god Cephissus and the nymph Liriope, carried within him a radiance that could rival the most stunning creations of the gods. His golden locks shimmered like sunlight on a rippling stream, and his eyes gleamed like the depths of the clearest waters. Wherever Narcissus went, mortals and nymphs alike would pause, entranced by his otherworldly allure. From the moment of his birth, it was clear that Narcissus was no ordinary child. His mother, the gentle nymph Liriope, sought guidance from the seer Tiresias, asking if her son would live a long and prosperous life. Tiresias, with his cryptic wisdom, replied, "He shall live long, so long as he never knows himself." Though puzzling, these words were set aside as the years passed, and Narcissus grew into a youth whose beauty captivated all who laid eyes upon him. Narcissus was not only beautiful but also unyielding, his heart guarded by a pride as formidable as his looks. Those who dared to confess their love to him were met with indifference, their affections dismissed with cold, fleeting glances. For Narcissus, the adoration of others was fleeting entertainment, a mirror reflecting his own greatness. Yet, amidst this growing chorus of admiration, the seeds of his fate were being sown. The gods themselves took notice of Narcissus, whispering among the clouds of Mount Olympus about the mortal whose beauty could rival even theirs. Some admired him, while others grew envious, for his allure was not tempered by humility. Narcissus's beauty was both his gift and his burden, a light so bright it cast a shadow over his soul. Thus, Narcissus walked the earth, admired by all yet untouched by love, carrying the weight of Tiresias' prophecy unknowingly. The world marveled at his beauty, but beneath the surface, the threads of fate were weaving a tale of longing, vanity, and tragic self-discovery. Little did he know that the very reflection he took for granted would one day be his undoing. As Narcissus grew, his beauty became the talk of the land. No mortal, nymph, or even god could deny the spellbinding allure he carried. His face, perfectly sculpted as if by the hands of the divine, was a blend of strength and softness, with features that seemed to capture the essence of both dawn and twilight. His movements were graceful yet commanding, each step like the rhythm of a melody that nature itself played in his honor. Wherever Narcissus went, the world seemed to respond to his presence. Flowers bloomed brighter in his wake, streams shimmered with greater clarity, and even the birds fell silent, as if to marvel at the beauty that walked among them. Yet, for all the adoration he inspired, Narcissus remained untouched by the hearts that saw him. Nymphs would hide among the trees, daring to catch a glimpse of him as he wandered through the forests. They whispered among themselves, their voices filled with both admiration and sorrow, for Narcissus never looked their way. Mortals, too, would stop in their tracks, captivated by his mere presence. But his gaze, as piercing as the sun's rays, would never linger on anyone else. It was as if Narcissus only saw the world as a reflection of himself. Despite the growing adulation, Narcissus's heart remained aloof, encased in a cold pride. To him, the love of others was fleeting and insignificant, unworthy of his attention. He believed no one could truly match his beauty, and so he wandered the earth alone, his admirers trailing behind like shadows that could never touch the light. The gods observed Narcissus from their celestial thrones, some amused by his arrogance, others angered by his disregard for those who adored him. Whispers of his beauty reached even the farthest corners of Olympus, where the gods debated whether such mortal splendor was a gift or a curse. Aphrodite herself, the goddess of love and beauty, marveled at Narcissus's charm but foresaw the emptiness in his heart. Though he walked in the brilliance of his youth, Narcissus's path was shadowed by the prophecy of Tiresias. He had yet to encounter the one thing that could undo him, the one reflection that would pierce his pride and reveal the truth of his heart. His fate lay ahead, waiting silently by a still, reflective pool where beauty would become a mirror and admiration a trap. Among those enchanted by Narcissus's beauty was Echo, a mountain nymph whose voice was as captivating as the song of 1,000 birds. Echo, once vibrant and full of laughter, was now cursed by Hera, the queen of the gods, to repeat only the words spoken to her. Her joyous chatter, once celebrated by gods and mortals alike, had been silenced, leaving her to echo the voices of others, a shadow of her former self. When Echo first saw Narcissus wandering through the forest, she was struck by his brilliance. To her, he was a vision, a living masterpiece that moved with grace and breathed life into the silent woods. Her heart swelled with a love so profound that it took her breath away, but her curse rendered her powerless to express it. She could only follow him from a distance, longing for him to notice her. One day, as Narcissus strolled through a sunlit glade, he sensed he was not alone. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice cutting through the quiet air. Echo, unable to resist, repeated his words in her melodic tone. "Who's there?" Narcissus turned, searching for the source of the voice, but saw nothing. Intrigued yet impatient, he called again, "Come here." Echo, with all the yearning in her heart, replied, "Come here." Emerging timidly from behind the trees, she revealed herself, her eyes filled with hope and adoration. But Narcissus, proud and unfeeling, looked upon her with disdain. "Stay away," he commanded sharply, his voice laced with irritation. Echo, bound by her curse, could only repeat, "Stay away," her words now a reflection of her heartbreak. Rejected and humiliated, she fled into the forest, her love unanswered and her spirit crushed. From that day forward, Echo faded, her physical form withering until she became nothing more than her voice, haunting the hills and valleys, forever repeating the words of others. Her love for Narcissus, unrequited and unacknowledged, became a poignant reminder of the pain of loving someone who could never return that love. Yet, Echo's sorrow did not go unnoticed. The gods, moved by her suffering, began to weave Narcissus's fate, ensuring that he, too, would understand the anguish of unfulfilled love. In rejecting Echo, Narcissus unknowingly set into motion a chain of events that would lead him to his own tragic destiny, where he would confront a reflection as unyielding and unreachable as he had been to the nymph who loved him. The gods watched from their celestial thrones, their patience with Narcissus growing thin. His arrogance, his coldness, and his dismissal of those who loved him had become a source of discord in the mortal and divine realms alike. Echo's heartbreak, her voice now haunting the hills and valleys, was the final spark that ignited their wrath. To let Narcissus continue unpunished would be an affront to the power of love and the bonds that united the world. Nemesis, the goddess of retribution, was called upon to deliver justice. Known for her unerring balance, she took pity on Echo's suffering and decided that Narcissus's heartless pride must be confronted. She devised a punishment that would strike at the very core of his being, ensuring that he would experience the pain he so thoughtlessly inflicted on others. With silent steps, Nemesis descended to the mortal world and wove her spell around Narcissus. She led him through the forest to a secluded glade where a still, glassy pool lay hidden among the trees. This was no ordinary pool, its waters were enchanted, reflecting not just the image of those who gazed into it, but their very essence. Nemesis knew that the pool would become both a mirror and a trap, a place where Narcissus would finally face himself. As Narcissus approached the water, weary from his wandering, Nemesis's spell took hold. He knelt by the pool, eager to quench his thirst, and as he leaned forward, his reflection appeared. In that moment, Narcissus's fate was sealed. He froze, transfixed by the face staring back at him, a face so beautiful, so radiant, that it took his breath away. He did not realize that he was gazing at his own reflection. He only knew that he had found a beauty that matched and exceeded all he had ever known. The gods looked on as Nemesis's curse unfolded. Narcissus, who had scorned the love of others, now found himself consumed by an unattainable desire. The reflection in the pool captivated him, yet it remained out of reach, untouchable. He spoke to it, his voice filled with longing, and when the reflection moved in perfect harmony with him, he believed it to be alive, responding to his words. In his arrogance, Narcissus had dismissed the hearts of those who adored him. Now, bound by the spell of Nemesis, he would learn the torment of unrequited love, the yearning for something that could never truly be his. Thus, the gods ensured that Narcissus's pride would be humbled, and the echo of his own vanity would lead him to the greatest tragedy of all, a love so consuming that it would become his undoing. In the quiet glade, surrounded by towering trees and the soft hum of nature, Narcissus knelt by the edge of the still, glassy pool. The air was calm, the water untouched by ripples, as if it were waiting for him. Narcissus leaned forward, his thirst drawing him closer to the surface. But as his gaze met the water, all thoughts of thirst vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of awe. In the depths of the pool, a face stared back at him, a face of such radiant beauty that it seemed almost divine. Narcissus froze, his breath catching in his chest. He had never seen anything so perfect, so mesmerizing. His heart, which had remained untouched by the love of others, began to beat faster. For the first time, he felt a longing so deep it silenced the world around him. Unaware that he was gazing at his own reflection, Narcissus whispered, "Who are you? Why have I never seen you before?" The reflection, of course, mirrored his every movement, his every word. To Narcissus, it seemed as if this mysterious figure were shy, responding only when he did. He smiled, and the reflection smiled back. He reached out, and the figure reached toward him. Yet, no matter how close he came, the water's surface remained unbroken, an unyielding barrier between him and the object of his desire. Narcissus was captivated, unable to tear his eyes away. He sat by the pool for hours, entranced by the reflection's beauty. "Do you love me?" he asked softly, his voice trembling. The reflection seemed to say yes, echoing his words in perfect harmony. But when he tried to embrace it, to touch the face that had stolen his heart, the water rippled, and the image dissolved, only to reappear moments later, just as untouchable as before. The longer he gazed, the deeper his obsession grew. Narcissus believed he had found a soul as beautiful as his own, someone who understood him in a way no one else ever could. He spoke to the reflection with tenderness, pouring out his heart in ways he never had with those who had loved him. But the reflection, bound by the nature of the pool, could never answer back. It could only mirror his words and movements, teasing him with the illusion of connection. As day turned to night, Narcissus remained by the pool, his heart heavy with longing. He was unaware that this love, so consuming, so unattainable, was the very curse laid upon him. The pool, enchanted by Nemesis, had become his prison, and his reflection, a reminder of the vanity that had led him to this moment. Narcissus, who had once scorned the love of others, was now a captive of his own desire, unable to see that the beauty he craved was none other than his own. As days turned into nights and nights back into days, Narcissus remained by the pool, utterly consumed by the face that gazed back at him. He neither ate nor slept, his entire world narrowed to the shimmering surface of the water and the captivating eyes that held his own. The forest around him continued its eternal cycle, leaves rustled in the wind, animals moved silently through the underbrush, and the sun traced its path across the sky, but for Narcissus, time stood still. He whispered sweet words to the reflection, his voice filled with a tenderness he had never shown to another. "Oh, wondrous being," he murmured, "you are all I have ever desired. Stay with me, let us never be apart." The reflection, ever mirroring his actions, seemed to reciprocate his affections, and yet, when he reached out to touch it, his fingers met only the cool, unyielding water. Each attempt left him more desperate than before, his heart aching with a longing that could not be fulfilled. The hunger and thirst that plagued mortal men were forgotten. Narcissus's physical needs paled in comparison to the emotional void that grew within him. He wept by the poolside, tears falling into the water and distorting the image he so adored. Panicked, he would wait for the ripples to settle, sighing with relief when the beloved face reappeared. "Why do you flee from me?" he would cry, not understanding that the evasion was his own doing. Passers-by occasionally glimpsed the once proud youth, now haggard and pale, speaking to the empty air. They shook their heads in sorrow, unable to comprehend the spell that had befallen him. The nymphs who had once admired him from afar now watched with pity, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that his suffering was a mirror of the pain he had caused others. Narcissus's world grew smaller and smaller until it encompassed only the pool and the image within it. He forgot the warmth of the sun, the scent of the flowers, and the gentle touch of the breeze. His family and friends faded from his memory, replaced entirely by the obsession that consumed him. The vibrant glow of his youth dimmed, his body weakening as his spirit clung desperately to an illusion. One evening, as the sky blushed with the colors of sunset, Narcissus gazed upon his reflection with tears in his eyes. "Farewell, dear love," he whispered. "I cannot bear this torment any longer. If I cannot possess you in this life, then perhaps in the next." With his final breath, he closed his eyes, his body succumbing to exhaustion and despair. As the life faded from Narcissus, the gods looked upon this scene with a mix of sorrow and resignation. In their wisdom, they decided that such beauty should not perish entirely. From the spot where he lay, a delicate flower began to bloom, a white blossom with a golden heart, its head bowed as if gazing into the water below. It was a symbol of Narcissus's unfulfilled longing and a reminder of the perils of vanity and self-obsession. The flower, which came to be known as the Narcissus, stood as a testament to his tale. It whispered his story to those who would listen, cautioning against the dangers of excessive pride and the importance of reaching beyond oneself to truly connect with others. And so, even in death, Narcissus remained by the pool, his reflection forever entwined with the tranquil waters, a silent echo of a beauty both magnificent and tragic. By the edge of the still, enchanted pool, Narcissus's body weakened as his obsession consumed him. The vibrant, golden youth who once walked through forests with pride and grace was now a shadow of his former self. His once radiant skin grew pale, his eyes, though still fixated on the reflection, lost their spark. Yet, even as his body withered, his longing only deepened. The reflection, so beautiful, so perfect, remained forever just out of reach. "Why do you torment me?" he whispered, his voice cracked and hoarse from days of endless yearning. "You return my gaze, you share my smile, yet you deny me the warmth of your touch. Is this love, or is it a curse?" Tears welled in his eyes, cascading down his cheeks and falling into the water, distorting the image for brief, agonizing moments. Each ripple felt like a cruel punishment, a reminder that the connection he sought was an illusion. The forest around him began to mirror his despair. The vibrant greens dulled, and the birds that once serenaded him fell silent. Even the nymphs who had once adored him watched from the shadows with a mix of sorrow and quiet vindication. Narcissus, who had scorned their love, was now ensnared by a love that could never be returned. As the sun set each day, casting golden light upon the pool, Narcissus would vow to leave, to free himself from the reflection's grip. Yet, as the stars emerged in the night sky, he would remain, unable to break the spell. His pride, once unyielding, was now a distant memory, replaced by a desperate plea for connection. "If I cannot have you," he murmured to the reflection, "then let me at least disappear into you." In his despair, Narcissus began to fade, his strength drained by the relentless pull of his unattainable desire. His body, frail and worn, slumped by the water's edge, yet his gaze never wavered. Even as life ebbed from him, his heart remained captive to the reflection. He had come to love a vision of himself, unaware that the perfection he sought was an illusion, a cruel trick of the enchanted waters. As his final breath left him, Narcissus fell forward, his hand brushing the surface of the pool one last time. The water rippled, and the image dissolved, leaving only the quiet stillness of the forest behind. The gods, watching from above, saw the tragedy unfold and decided to grant Narcissus a final mercy. From the place where his body rested, they brought forth a delicate flower, white with a golden heart, its head forever bowed as if gazing into the water. This flower, the Narcissus, became a symbol of his story, a tale of beauty, vanity, and unfulfilled love. It stood as a reminder of the danger of loving only oneself and the pain of a heart trapped in its own reflection. And so, Narcissus's story was etched into the memory of the earth, whispered by the flowers and the wind, warning mortals of the perilous allure of vanity and the power of love unreturned. As Narcissus's life slipped away by the enchanted pool, the gods observed his tragic end with a mix of pity and solemnity. Though his vanity and pride had led him to this fate, his beauty and suffering were undeniable. The gods, moved by his tale, chose to preserve his memory, transforming his sorrow into something eternal. From the spot where Narcissus fell, a single flower began to bloom. Its delicate white petals unfurled like soft whispers, and its golden heart seemed to glow with a quiet sadness. The flower's head bent low, as if gazing into the pool where Narcissus had spent his final days, forever mirroring the youth's longing. This flower was unlike any other, a symbol of beauty and fragility, born from both love and despair. The nymphs, who had once adored Narcissus from afar, gathered around the flower, their tears mingling with the water of the pool. They whispered his name, their voices carrying through the forest, blending with the soft rustle of the trees and the murmurs of the wind. Narcissus, they called, their sorrow evident, may your beauty live on even as your heart has faded. The forest itself seemed to mourn. The once lively glade where Narcissus had wandered fell silent, save for the gentle rippling of the water. The flower stood as a lonely sentinel, a reminder of the tragic tale that had unfolded there. The gods, satisfied with the balance restored, ensured that the flower, the Narcissus, would bloom every spring, a testament to the fleeting nature of beauty and the dangers of self-obsession. The story of Narcissus spread far and wide, whispered by nymphs, retold by mortals, and etched into the lore of humanity. The flower became a symbol of both love's allure and its potential for destruction. Its beauty, undeniable yet modest, carried with it a lesson that to love only oneself is to miss the world's greater connections, the bonds that make life rich and meaningful. Through the Narcissus flower, Narcissus's legacy endured, not as a reminder of his arrogance, but as a symbol of the delicate balance between self-admiration and self-destruction. His tale, both tragic and poetic, became a timeless lesson woven into the fabric of nature. The flower, bowing gently toward its reflection, stood as a silent witness to the peril of vanity and the eternal longing for something just out of reach. Narcissus's story, born of beauty and pride, remains one of the most poignant tales in Greek mythology, a reminder of the delicate balance between self-admiration and the danger of losing oneself in it. His fate, sealed by his inability to love beyond his own reflection, speaks to the very nature of humanity's relationship with self-love, pride, and the desire for connection. In Narcissus, the gods crafted a lesson for mortals. His beauty was a gift, but one that became a curse when paired with his inability to see beyond himself. He was adored by many, yet his heart was closed, unable to reciprocate the love freely given to him. His rejection of Echo and countless others showed how his vanity blinded him to the richness of relationships and the warmth of shared affection. The enchanted pool, where he met his reflection, became the ultimate mirror, not just of his physical beauty, but of his inner emptiness. In falling in love with his own image, Narcissus revealed the peril of unchecked pride, the isolation it brings, the inability to connect with others, and the consuming nature of desire when it turns inward. His obsession, though rooted in love, was hollow, a love that could never be fulfilled because it lacked the depth of genuine connection. Through Narcissus's tragic end, the gods reminded mortals of the importance of balance. Admiration for oneself is natural, even necessary, but when it blinds one to the world and the people around them, it becomes a trap. Narcissus's story warns against the dangers of becoming ensnared by one's own reflection, of letting vanity and pride overshadow the beauty of humility and connection. The flower that sprang from his sorrow, the Narcissus, carries this message in its bowed head and delicate petals. It whispers to those who pass, reminding them of the fragility of beauty, the fleeting nature of life, and the importance of looking beyond oneself. In its quiet elegance, it teaches that true beauty lies not just in what is seen, but in the love and connections shared with others. Narcissus's legacy is one of caution, a tale woven into the very fabric of nature. It challenges humanity to embrace both self-love and humility, to admire oneself without losing sight of the world's greater beauty, and to seek connections that nourish the soul rather than mirrors that reflect the surface alone. The story of Narcissus did not end by the enchanted pool. Instead, it transcended time, becoming a lasting symbol of beauty, vanity, and the human condition. His tale, passed down through generations, serves as a mirror reflecting humanity's ongoing struggle with pride, self-obsession, and the yearning for deeper connection. The flower that bears his name, the Narcissus, stands as a poignant reminder of his fate. Its delicate white petals and bowed head whisper his story to all who encounter it, a tale of unmatched beauty, unfulfilled love, and the dangers of becoming lost in one's own reflection. Every spring, when the Narcissus blooms, it revives the memory of the youth who fell victim to his own allure, a cautionary tale reborn with each new season. Beyond the realms of myth, Narcissus's story has found resonance in art, literature, and psychology. Poets and painters have immortalized his image, drawn to the tragic beauty of a youth captivated by himself. The term narcissism, derived from his name, has entered the modern lexicon, describing an excessive focus on oneself. His myth serves as a lens through which we examine our own tendencies towards self-admiration and the delicate balance between confidence and vanity. In contemporary times, Narcissus's tale feels more relevant than ever. In a world increasingly defined by reflections, whether in mirrors, photographs, or digital screens, his story serves as a timeless warning. It asks us to consider the cost of losing ourselves in appearances, of prioritizing surface over substance, and of neglecting the connections that give life meaning. Yet, Narcissus's story is not solely one of caution. It also reminds us of the power and complexity of love, even when misdirected. His tale speaks to the universal longing for something beautiful and pure, and the tragedy of finding it in a form that cannot reciprocate. Through his fate, we are reminded of the importance of looking outward, of seeking love and connection beyond the confines of the self. The legacy of Narcissus endures as both a warning and an inspiration. His story asks us to embrace our beauty and individuality while also reaching beyond them to connect with the world. It teaches that true fulfillment lies not in our reflection, but in the relationships and experiences that allow us to grow, love, and truly see ourselves through the eyes of others. And so, the story of Narcissus comes to an end, a tale as timeless as the still waters that once reflected his beauty. His journey, from prideful youth to a figure of eternal reflection, reminds us of the fragility of vanity and the bittersweet nature of unfulfilled love. Through his tragic fate, we see the power of self-admiration and its ability to both inspire and isolate. Narcissus's story is not just a myth of beauty, it is a mirror held up to our own hearts, challenging us to balance love for ourselves with the connections that make life rich and meaningful. The gods may have been harsh in their judgment, but their actions gave birth to a lasting legacy. The narcissus flower, delicate and bowed, whispers his tale to anyone willing to listen. It blooms as a reminder of the importance of humility, of looking beyond one's reflection to see the beauty and love in the world around us. Narcissus's story teaches us that while it is natural to admire oneself, it is through reaching outward, to others, to experiences, to the vastness of life, that we truly find fulfillment. As we leave this tale behind, let it echo in our minds like the voice of the nymph Echo herself. Narcissus's tragedy is not just his own, it is a cautionary tale for all of us, asking us to reflect on our own lives. Are we captivated by mere appearances, or are we seeking the deeper bonds that bring true happiness? Are we gazing at our own reflection, or are we looking out to the world with open hearts? Thank you for joining Whisper Tales as we explore the legend of Narcissus. His story, filled with beauty, longing, and heartbreak, remains as relevant today as it was in the time of myths. If you enjoyed this tale, remember to follow Whisper Tales for more journeys into the rich world of myth and legend. Let the echoes of these stories guide you, and may you always find the courage to look beyond yourself, to love deeply, and to embrace the beauty of the connections that shape your life. Until we meet again, may your dreams be filled with wonder, and may you carry the lessons of Narcissus with you as a reminder of the power and peril of love, beauty, and self-discovery. Good night.